Yo guys, what's going on? It's Rose here, bringing guys a brand new draft league. I'm super excited for this one. Thank you to Gravy, the owner of the PBA, for allowing us in this season. I'm super excited. We are going to be part of the Slitherwing division this season. Like I said, I'm super excited for this. This is a brand new avenue for us. We're going to be getting in with some guys that are more or less well known around the community, and I'm super excited to see what doors that opens for us in the future. But to give a rundown of this league, we had the 9th pick out of 12 coaches. I believe we had 115 points to spend, and then we had 25 points to use for Terra captains, which those captains can Terra into any type they want, just as long as the total point value does not exceed 25 for those Pokemon. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the first pick here with Meowscarada, a mon that I've been wanting to use since Gen 9 released, and I'm super excited. We're in June. I haven't used it yet, and I'm gonna use it here. I'm super excited for this thing. This thing gets U-turn. It gets both types of spikes. It gets knockoff, and with it now being post-home, which this is one of the first post-home draft leagues, since its release not that long ago. We're gonna be kicking this off, and I'm super excited to use Meowscarada, a mon, like I said, that I want to use since the release. I always really, I did always like Meowscarada. I've seen it, do very well in competitive format. Just being able to U-turn around, set up the spikes and T-spikes, getting those knockoffs. Flower Trick is really good. Getting Play Rough and other coverage moves. There's no complaints that I have against this mon. Great speed tier in 123. Good attack set as well, and honestly, for a mon that's not super bulky, it's got some decent, well-rounded stats. Pretty much everything is in the 70s and 80s, as you see, except for those, attack and speed stats. But yeah, I'm super excited to use this thing. I'm not expecting for this to be the mainstay for the, for the league, like our big powerhouse. But this thing is going to provide us a lot of utility and a lot of just momentum forcing, and it's just going to do so many things for us, and I'm really excited to see what it does. In the second round, I'm going to be pairing it up with Slitherwing here. This thing is insane. Bug Fighting is an amazing typing, and this thing has amazing stats, as you see: 135 attack, 105 special defense, 85 HP, 79. Like I'm reading it out of order, but you get the point. Like everything is it's super well-rounded, super bulky. With booster energy, I can make that even better. This hits really hard with first impressions and U-turns, close combats. I believe this thing gets Wild Charge, Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp. I mean, there's a lot of things that this thing can do for us, and I'm super excited to see what we're going to be able to take advantage of with it. Just firing off those first impressions. Most things don't have a great switch into it, and I'm really excited to see what this can provide for us. There's going to be weeks where it's going to be offensive and it's going to hit like a truck, and there's going to be weeks where it's going to sit and take hits, and I'm super excited to give this thing a shot. Another mon I haven't used ever, and I've seen it used before. My buddy Brendan in the DDL, the league that he runs, he used it there, and it looked like a lot of fun, and I'm super excited to see what we got for this. And in round 3, I picked up my fairy type. I picked up Mimikyu here. Here's the thing, it's not the best fairy type that was there, but it was the only fairy type out of the available ones that I haven't used yet. It's a mon that well, not in Gen 9 at least. I used it back in, I believe, early Gen 8, but it's been a long time since I've used it. This thing actually, surprisingly enough, it hits pretty hard. With only a base 90 attack, it doesn't seem as much, but with Life Orb and Swords Dance options, Shadow Sneaks, Play Rough, it gets Wood Hammer, it gets Drain Punch. I mean, this thing gets a ton of coverage, hits very hard. A 96 speed tier is nothing to scoff at. It's just fast enough to where those base 100s cannot run Adamant against it, or because of it, really. And this thing, it's been given such a low tier in recent memory, and I'm excited to see if we can kind of revitalize what Mimikyu is, and use it in ways that either have been used before and use it in a more successful manner, or just in ways that haven't been done yet. But in round 4, I actually picked up my first Terra captain. I picked up Gyarados. This is a big fish in a little pond, the complete opposite of us, because we are a little fish in a gigantic fucking pond. And I'm super excited to use this thing. I've wanted to use Gyarados for years. I've been doing Draft League for about 6 years now, and I haven't used Gyarados yet. I don't think. I've used Mega Gyarados once or twice back in Gen 7, but I haven't used regular Gyarados, and with Gen 9 with Terra, this thing is actually like really, really viable now and very scary. Being able to actually get Flying Stab outside of like Hurricane is amazing. 81 speed, you know, just like Slithering, is a little slow, but with Dragon Dance, this thing can easily outspeed most teams after a +1, and, you know, if needed, a +2. It has great all-around stats with that 125 attack. It has 95 HP, 100 special defense to take those hits. It can actually take hits really, you know, pretty well, especially with the Intimidate ability, or it can just sweep things after a +1 with Moxie. And I'm super, super excited to use this thing with that Dragon Dance, with the Terra. This thing is going to tear through the league, and I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited to see what this thing does for us. In round 5, we're picking up Gothitelle. Alright, this is Shadow Tag permitted Gothitelle, by the way. My buddy Shadow just used it in the DDL. I've seen it used, I believe Pokeaim actually used it in BBR as well. There was a coach that used it in BBR. I don't exactly remember who it was, but it was used, and I don't think it actually showed up much, if at all, during that time frame. But this thing, even if it doesn't show up, it forces you to prep for it. It forces you to account for Shadow Tag, and it's going to force teams to do things that they don't want to do because of this mod. It's going to force, you know, Shed Shells as items. It's going to force things to run U-turn Revolt Switch if they don't want to, and potentially remove a coverage move. And with it's honestly really, like, they're very good stats. I mean, you got 95 defense and 95 special attack, 95 special defense, or excuse me, 110 special defense. Those 3 stats alone make this thing very, very, very good. The 70 HP stat isn't great, but when you look at that combined with the defensive stats, it's honestly pretty bulky, with leftovers or the berries and rest as well. Resto Chesto is something that we could do. Or I believe this thing gets Trick 'em as well. We can set up Trick 'em for ourselves. It gets Nasty Plot, I believe, and it gets phenomenal coverage. So I'm super excited to use this thing. We also don't exactly have to run Shadow Tag, because Frisk and Competitive are also very solid abilities. Now, will we probably run Shadow Tag every time we bring this thing? I'm gonna say 99% of this time we're gonna be running Shadow Tag, but we can run Frisk or Competitive if we want to. And you know what, with us running Competitive, they're not gonna know whether or not we're Shadow Tag, because neither ability procs until you try and switch, which obviously would dictate whether or not it's Shadow Tag. So that's something that we can take advantage of, and I'm super excited to see what this thing does for us. I've always loved Gothitelle, and I never got the chance to use it before, and I'm super excited that we get the chance to use it now in my first post-home draft league, in my first mainstream draft league. And I mean, there's so many firsts happening here. Pretty much everything on my team so far, I've either never used or I've used it's been a long time since I've used it, and that's going to be a running theme this season. Next up, we got Moltres here. Not a Terra Captain, unfortunately. I wanted to do it, but I didn't. I mean, this thing gets hurt, with Hurricane and Fire Blast, this thing pretty much covers anything anyways. And whatever that doesn't hit, Solar Beam hits. So we're perfectly fine. 90 speed is a pretty solid speed tier. Nice mid, kind of bulky, fast Mon with Moltres here. You see everything on this thing except for special defense is at least base 90, which is amazing. The only thing that's not is that special defense, which is perfectly fine, because with what this thing can do, I'm not too worried about it taking hits. To that regard, this thing can fire off Fire Blast, Hurricanes like nobody's business. You getting those U-turns off. I believe it still gets Defog in this generation, so I'm super excited to see what Moltres can do for us. And I've used it before. I've used it a couple times. It was actually, I believe, on my first draft, on my first championship back all the way in 2018, I think, maybe 2019. It's been a long time since that championship run, but I'm super excited to use Moltres again. It's been a long time since I've used it, and I'm really excited to give it a shot again. This thing hits like a truck. It's very bulky, and it's going to provide a lot of utility for us, and it's going to provide a lot of coverage for us as well. Next up, we got Mudsdale. Honestly, one of my favorite mons to come out of Gen 7. I absolutely love Mudsdale and what this thing can do. With its stamina ability, you don't even really have to run too much into your physical, physical defense stat. You can run a lot more Spit F, which with 85 base speed, 85 base special defense. Oh my god, imagine if this thing was 85 base speed with the rest of these stats. It'd be very fucking good. But regardless, 85 special defense, coupled with the HP stat is a very good stat spread. When you look at that, along with the fact that it is common to run Assault Vest and just run 4 attacks, with Earthquake and Stone Edge, being those 2 primary moves, it gets Body Press now as well. I believe it got that in Gen 8, but now it still gets it here in Gen 9. And with that stamina ability, it's going to boost over time. Or if we don't want to run Assault Vest, we can run Stealth Rocks. We can hit things with Roar. I believe it's one of the few mons that gets toxic. I could be wrong. I don't think there's much, if anything, that gets toxic anymore. So I could be completely wrong. But honest to God, Mudsdale, I love this thing. I'm super excited to use it. There were other ground types that were a little bit better on the board, but honestly, this is a mon I don't think I've ever used this mon, which is a crime because Mudsdale is phenomenal. I think Donphan was still on the board at that point, and I love Donphan, but I just use it in DDL. I've used it in a couple of other Showdown leagues since then. It's a mon that I frequent, it's a mon that I love, but it's not one I want to just rely on. I want to try new stuff, and that's what we're doing here with Mudsdale. And round 7, honestly, getting a really solid ground type like this for pretty cheap, I think it was like 7 points. Getting a really good ground type for not that expensive is phenomenal for us, and I'm super excited to use it. This is going to be a backbone to our defense, and I'm really excited to see what this thing does for us. Next up, we are grabbing Magnezone. Now, originally, this is not the steel type I wanted. Originally I was gonna go with Goldango, but then I was like, I just use it in DDL. I really don't want to just use the same things over and over and over again. I want to try new stuff. I was gonna grab Fortress at one point, and it got taken like 2 picks before this one. So I was looking at the board, and honestly, this was the best steel type that was left on the board that I was wanting to use. I do love Magnezone a lot, and it's unfortunate that I haven't used it yet, but we're going to be using it here in Wi-Fi and seeing how well it does for us. It gets 3, honestly, really good abilities. Magnet Pull, Analytic, and Sturdy are phenomenal abilities. Analytic makes this thing go from a very solid special attacker to an absolute fucking monster. With that Electric and Steel Stab, it gets Tri-Attack as well. This thing hits so hard with that Analytic ability, being slower than most things anyway. This thing is going to absolutely rip a new one into every team in the format, in this league, and I'm so excited to see it just absolutely crush the game. But yeah, honestly, all around, really solid stats. Obviously that lackluster speed, but that's perfectly fine. With the, because of the analytic ability. Getting Sturdy as well is amazing. Being quite weak to ground means you're quite weak to Earthquake, which means you're not taking an Earthquake. So having that Sturdy ability, potentially getting off a Flash Cannon or a Tri-Attack, and potentially getting, that Burn, Freeze, or Paralysis against that Mon, that could always come in handy. Getting that handy Volt Switch off with, 1 HP left could make or break a game, and I'm really excited to use this thing, you guys. I know I'm saying that about every single Mon I've got on my team so far, but I love this team so much. It doesn't look like a super impressive team on paper, just at first glance, but once you dive into it, this is a very well-rounded team, and I'm super happy with the team that I've built, especially because I got sniped what seems like every fucking turn in this game, or in this draft, man. I got sniped so much. Like, it's frustrating, but it's okay. We made do with with what we were given, and we're taking advantage of everything we can. Next up, we got Dragology. Now, I really kind of had a choice to make here in this round. There were 2 dragon types, same point value, and they were both available at this pick. It was Dragology, which I obviously ended up taking, or Goodra. Now, I could have taken Goodra. Goodra might be on paper better, but it's something I've used in the past. It's not something I had success with. Dragalge, it's something I have used in the past, but it's been a long time, and I had success the last time I used it, which I think it's been about a year or two since I've used this thing. And I love Dragalge. Getting Flip Turn and that Poison Dragon dual stab. It's unfortunate that my Poison type doesn't resist Fairy, but with Magnezone, that's perfectly fine. With Moltres, that's perfectly fine. I'm not super worried about about Fairy types, because there's really not that many in the format anymore. They really just cut out a lot of Fairy types in Gen 9, which I'm okay with. I like Fairy types, but they were so overpowered for like a decade, because they were introduced in Gen 6 back in like 2013, I think is when that those X and Y games were released, and for the better part of a decade those things ran competitive, and now we're finally getting to a point where they're still very good, but there's fewer of them, so they're not going to be just bouncing around everywhere, which I appreciate. So regardless, I mean, this thing is phenomenal. With 97 special attack, it doesn't look like it hits that hard, but with adaptability, those Sludge Bombs, those Draco Meteors are hitting so much harder. This thing gets Hydro Pump as well, so I'm really excited to potentially use that. Another T-Spiker as well, Flip Turn. Haze is another option for us to potentially, take a hit with maybe a super effective berry if we need to, get that Haze off and potentially, ruin someone's day with their setup and just completely shut them down. This thing could be very good for us. It could be a very good utility mon for us. I'm super excited to use it again. I love Dragalge. I love this team, like I said. And you know what? Honestly, with our next pick, it just keeps getting better. We're going to be taking Mousehold here. My buddy Shadow just used it in DDL. I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from his team with a couple of my picks, as you guys have seen. And with 111 base speed, that's like the only stat on this thing that's good. But with Technician and its signature move, Population Bomb, this thing absolutely tears through teams. With that wide lens, being everything is 99% accurate on the Population Bomb, and with the ability to hit 10 times with it, essentially, or up to 10 times, excuse me. This thing hits very hard. I'm super excited to use it. This is actually a Terra Captain of ours as well, so we can Terra Normal and just rip through teams with Terra Normal Pop Bombs. We could Terra Flying to resist those fighting type moves, Terra Fairy to do that as well, but also take on dragon types. There's a lot of things we can do with this thing, and it also gets some pretty solid coverage. It gets Bite to take advantage of that Technician. It gets Seed Bomb, I believe it gets Play Rough as well. So there's a lot of things we can do with this mon, and with Terrestrialization on it, there's just so much more we can do with it. I'm super excited. But yes, next up, we got Cryogonal. Now, it's a mon that I've used a handful of times back in Gen 7 and Gen 8. I used this thing like 5 or 6 times over the, between those two generations. I used it all the time, especially in Gen 8. I used it for like every team because it was a fast spinner. And that's exactly what we're using it for. It's base 105 speed, gets Rapid Spin, gets Defog as well. But Freeze Dry, very solid. And again, with Terrestrialization, which is, we activated that on this as well. This thing, its coverage just skyrockets. Normally, this thing kind of struggles with steel types, but now we can do Terra Blast Ground, Terra Blast Fire, Terra Blast Fighting. You guys kind of get the drill. This thing becomes a much bigger problem, or we can do Terra Electric and get no weaknesses because of Levitate. I mean, there's really no telling what we can do with this, and I'm super excited to use it again. And I think with Terrestrialization, this thing at 4 points is a steal. With that Terra, this thing's gonna be a steal, and I'm super excited for it. And with the last pick, I doubled up on a couple of typings, but honestly, it's okay. I needed another spinner because every fucking remover that I wanted just kept getting taken pick after pick after pick. But honestly, this thing at 3 points is a good steal. And with the Terrestrialization, which we're going to be activating on Tatsugiri here, this thing's going to be so much better. Getting that Terra Water, Hydro Pumps, those Terra Dragon, Draco Meteors. You can run Terra Steel to take those Freeze Dries immensely better. This thing gets Rapid Spin, it gets Nasty Plot. I believe it gets Recover or Slack Off or something of that nature as well. And its natural dual stab just hits everything for such big amounts of damage. that I'm super excited to use it. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think of my team in the comments. I really like this team. We get 4 Terra Captains, which is amazing because we took advantage of the 25-point budget, getting a few low-tier mons that could take advantage of that terrestrialization and make themselves infinitely better. But yeah, I'm super excited to use this, this team. Thanks again to Gray V for letting me in this season. Thanks again to Thomas for kind of opening the door for me here, and he was already in the season to begin with. And when Gray needed some more coaches, Thomas threw my hat in the ring, and you know what? The rest is history, man. Our story is still being written in the Wi-Fi draft community. I'm super excited for it, man. I'll see you guys in week 1 versus our opponent, and I'm super pumped, you guys. I'll see you guys in week 1. Peace out.